Greetings, brothers and sisters. So JoJo had an epic gaffe last night. JoJo, he's reading a speech, right? And this is the first part of the speech, the beginning speech. They were coming in here. They were just sitting down, right? This is the very beginning of the speech here.
Holding this capital, desecrating our democracy, remain vivid in all our minds. Lives were put at risk.
So he starts off here. Kamala and Nancy are masked up. He's got a blue tie on, right? This is the beginning of his speech. He shouldn't have a gaffe of this proportion, an epic historical gaffe, but he does. He's reading a speech, and somehow they put this in the speech, and it is a monstrous gaffe.
That's democracy in action. Our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we, the people, are the government.
They put that in the speech right off the bat. We, the people, is the government, right? It's the exact opposite of that, you know? They literally wrote that into the speech. We, the people, are the government. That was never the intention of the Constitution in America, right? This whole concept of America. It was never supposed to be the government. That's the exact opposite of the essence and the thinking behind the initial concept of America. And I'm not, I don't care about the Constitution. Like, I'm not one of these constitutionalists, and, I believe in a spiritual solution. In fact, there's an epic spiritual gathering going on now for the heartfulness system. In fact, I just had the first meditation, the first sitting this morning for Babaji's birth celebration, his 122nd birth celebration. He passed away in 1983, and it was spectacular. It was, the current president, master of the system, talked about how at these gatherings there was a canopy of grace, like there's just this divine energy that's at these spiritual gatherings. And, if you go to the ones in India or even one at a local ashram or somebody who's a preceptor, a trainer in the system, if you go to their house and meditate, you can feel it, or even doing it in your own house. But he was saying that because of the circumstances of not being able to have a big gathering, this grace is all over the globe. It is encompassing the globe for the next 3 days. And I could feel it, right? I could just, not just today, but building up to it. And so I'm in just complete, I could care less about JoJo and the world and all these things, because what's important for me, is the internal connection with God. And it's a great time for that. But in terms of what JoJo's saying here, we the people was never supposed to be the government, and it shouldn't be now. The government is a vortex of power that is controlled by money and special interests and political lobbying groups, and all these politicians are bought and sold. And so the government is not run by we the people. The elections, candidates come out and they promise things and they tell the people what they want to hear, and, however the election is fair or not, or whatever it is. But after that, it's run by special interests. There was a study done, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and the study said what we all know, which is whatever side the money is on, where the most money is, wins every political issue. It's not the people. They make decisions based in whatever controlling forces that are out there, the government does, and then they try to sell it to you. They try to sell that you're getting a good deal. They try to make it sound like it's what you want, right, as people. And so we the people was never supposed to be the government. And in fact, the founding fathers, who were, they're not sacred cows to me. None of these things are. There's a lot of people who are in the truth community that think they have to defend the Constitution and, the founding fathers and all this tradition. But that stuff's jumped the shark, right? Whatever vision there was for America and whatever, potential greatness there was is gone. Like, all that stuff has been trampled long ago. It's not happening now. It happened years ago, 100 years ago, when they brought in the Federal Reserve, and just people getting materialistically addicted. Because we the people, if you think about what we the people actually are right now, go to a rural town, like a poor town, and go to Walmart, right? Or go to an urban town, like, real urban area where there's a lot of poverty, and, tenement housing, and then go to Walmart. And that's what America is. Like, if you go to those two Walmarts, you can see why Republicans who would go to a Walmart in the inner city and Democrats who would go to a Walmart in some rural country town and see what humanity is, what America really is in terms of these just zombies, people who are eating these factory farm foods, these processed foods. It's easy to look down on people, right, of the other side. Republicans can look down at the people who make up, the Democratic Party by going to these, Walmarts, or even going to Whole Foods and seeing pretentious sort of, I don't know, liberal people and whatever it is. You can always find a reason to look down on another group by looking at the worst of the worst. And Democrats can go to a rural area and see, some area that's filled with Trump supporters and see all these Walmart goers and feel superior, say these are these dumb Trump supporters. That's how, it always works. You look at the worst of your enemies, and then you make that the whole group, right? You think, all right, that's all of them. But the majority of people right now are very low vibration and low consciousness and very materialistic, no connection to God. It's getting worse with each succeeding generation. We're becoming more and more degraded. Just look at what's going on the internet. Look at the stuff that's being put out there by everybody on social media. And I mean, there's some good things, but it's in a sea of just crap, right? The way that people treat each other, the comments, the trolling, the everything. And so that's America, JoJo, right? That's we the people. And the founding fathers who were, slave owners, and many of them were Freemasons, and they had a totally different view of God or, whatever, right? They were, they were limited in their way, right? They were people who had faults, and they were underdeveloped in whatever, way that people of that time were. They were aristocratic. I mean, there's a lot of things they had going on that wasn't going to translate to the modern era. But they put together a good idea of how a government should work, and they put together a good template, and they warned against all the things that are now happening, right? These are all the things that they warned against, and the way that it's developing, especially right now. I mean, over the years, it's gotten worse and worse, but now with JoJo and what happened, in this last election and what happened with the pandemic and all these things is what they warned about. And it's, the Constitution is now all but gone. I mean, it's, still there in very frazzled state. But for him to come out and say, we the people is the government, when that's the opposite of the way it was supposed to be, and that's completely not true. But we the people isn't great. The people of America aren't great, and we deserve a government like we have because people are so low consciousness and don't have the ability for critical thinking skills and are so disconnected from God and what it's like to be a natural human, and they're getting weaker and weaker on every level, then of course you're going to go to government like this. You're going to get a government like this because it's what's inside of us collectively. We're manifesting reality together. Everything comes from the inside out. And so whatever's in people's internal worlds, I've talked about internal worlds all the time because it's the most important thing. It's what causes the system in the world to be the way it is. The outside world, your outside world, is a reflection of what's inside you. And if you don't like what you see outside yourself, then you have to go inside yourself and remove what's manifesting your reality, manifesting the world as you see it and experience it. The world is your inner world being mirrored back at you. It's like God holds up a mirror to you and what's inside of you. And so whatever you have inside of you is going to be reflected back towards you. And if you're having a miserable existence, then you have to go inside and figure out what's causing that to be reflected back. And so the idea of democracy, he talks a lot about democracy in this opening statement and how democracy worked and is working after the so-called insurgency on the Capitol. But democracy never works if the people themselves are undeveloped. You can't have ignorant people, and people are getting just stupider and stupider. They're hemorrhaging vocabulary words, and you just look at each generation is getting worse and less capable, less moral, disconnected from everything that makes them, the higher level of potential that's there. essence of your soul manifesting itself in all its glory, right? In all of its purity, all of its essence. I mean, this is the purpose of the heartfulness system, to pull out the best in each person internally and help you reach your full potential as a spiritual being manifested in your physical form. And so that's just simply not happening right now. And so the government sucks and people suck. And so, when that's the case, the government's a reflection of the people and the people are a reflection of the government. And this is, our system collapsing around us. And so he had two gaffes there. He said, our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds. He means to say great.
Our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds.
So he messed up the word great with trite, which is, bizarre and I guess telling in some way. And those kind of gaffes I poke fun at, when people misspeak or whatever, but I do that all the time. Like I edit out my mistakes. I've made a number of mistakes already, right? Just in this voiceover that I've edited out. So that's, whatever. Sometimes you see these politicians say what they really feel by mistake, and that's something. But in this case, he just misspoke, and that's you're going to speak a lot, that's going to happen. But for him to say, we the people, and it's time to remember that we the people are the government.
We the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government.
Like that's such a wrong statement, and that's scripted. That's not something he was talking off the cuff. He didn't say, just deviate from his speech. That's his speech. They wrote that in the speech that we the people are the government, and it's so not. Like everything about America, and they were, they wanted states to be strong, states' rights to be strong, and they wanted the various legislative branches to be stronger than the presidency. I mean, all these things that have evaporated over time. They didn't want presidents just wielding this executive order, all these things that have been done. I mean, all these things. It goes against the intent of America and what America was supposed to be about. And so in the first few minutes of his first address to Congress, he has one of the biggest gaffes. And of course, for this guy who's been in government for 47 years, these lifelong government people, he wants government to be we the people, right? That's, communism. I mean, this is not what America is supposed to be about, that the government is we the people. It's supposed to be people are the people, right? And that we have our own sovereignty and our own opinions, and that's reflected in what the government does. But that's no longer the case, not with special interests. I mean, the Constitution has been shredded on so many different levels to do with the power structure, and this has happened over the past 100 years. It's not on JoJo, but then he makes it worse. So then he goes and says this.
We the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government. You and I. Not some force in a distant capital. Not some powerful force that we have no control over. It's us. It's we the people.
The government's in the capital, not some distant force in the capital. No, you're in the capital. You're a lifelong politician in the capital, and you just said the government is we the people. That's not, the government is no longer we the people. The people have very little influence on the government. The government controls people's lives, and you are pushing for more and more control. And then they push this in God we trust.
We the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government. You and I. Not some force in a distant capital. Not some powerful force that we have no control over. It's us. It's we the people. In another era.
And you don't trust God, because I've said this over and over again. If you believe in God, then you believe there's a plan, and you have to accept the way things go. You do your work. I mean, this is one of the wonderful teachings from the heartfulness system. You do the work and leave the results to God. Very, easy to understand principle, teaching, that you do the work that you think you're supposed to do, and you put it out there. It's like when you're shooting a basket or you're hitting a ball with a bat or golf club. You swing and you hit it. You shoot the basketball, and then you allow it to go in or not, right? You can't control whether it's going to go in or not. You can have the best form. You can do everything possible. You can cast your line into the ocean. You can find out where the fish are. You can use technology to locate the fish, and you can, cast your line, use the best bait. But whether the fish bites your hook or not is a mystery, right? You don't have control over those things. You can ask somebody to marry you, and, you can do everything you can to win the, person's heart, and she might say no to you, right? I mean, you go and you do things, and once in a while you come up empty, and you have to accept them. They're disappointing, and it sucks when when you wanted a certain outcome, but you do the work, and then you sit back and you allow nature to run its course, and you surrender it to God. Okay, God, I did my best. It's now in your hands. And that's not at all, I mean, in God we trust. It's nothing to do with America. America is manipulating its people. It's manipulating the financial markets. It's manipulating the elections. It's manipulating everything around the globe in terms of these, all these dark agencies, the CIA and NSA and the FBI and, Mossad and MI6 all across the globe, having spy agencies doing covert activities, these troll farms manipulating the internet, censoring us all on social media. I mean, that's all control stuff. You don't believe in God. If you got to censor people, let things run its natural course. You are, keeping people from expressing themselves on something where, social media is about people expressing themselves. So much so that it's annoying, right? People talking about, today I mowed the lawn, right? Really? Thanks for sharing, on Facebook or something like this. People are over-expressing themselves. But one of the things about we the people want to be able to say certain things that we can't say anymore. There's so many topics that I can't talk about because of, these various constraints that are on social media, which is put out there by the government and the corporations. So that's we the people. You're suppressing we the people. You're not allowing we the people to express themselves. You're telling we the people that you're wrong and what you're saying can't be said and it's forbidden, right? Because, we want to control everything. So no, there's no in God we trust. That's complete BS. In the government, you don't trust God. You want more and more control. You want control over things you have no control over. And eventually, you're going to be swept away. The government is going to be wiped out like it has nothing. It's going to be powerless in a distant memory because you didn't, embrace in God we trust. If you truly embrace in God we trust, you would do the work and let things run their natural course. But there's so much manipulation to keep the system going, keep the economy going, keep the beast going, and not allow what should happen to happen, which is a collapse of a debauched system. And we're all 100% dependent on it, we the people, that we are willing to put up with it because we can't imagine living without the system and how hard that would be, living without grocery stores and money and TV and internet and all these things. And so we're desperate for the system to continue, even though it should have collapsed of its own depravity, right? It goes against the will of God. It is an abomination, and all things come to an end. All things must die. All things, have to die to give way to something new and something better, something different. And so even systems, governments, and things like this that think they're all powerful come to an end, right? And this is America right now. He's saying we're the people with the government, not some powerful person in some distant office while he sits in that very office. This is one of the most epic gaffes of all time. JoJo delivering it, right? Delivering the goods in his first speech, contradicting himself. No, Joe, you're the beast, right? You guys are the beast. You are, a system that is a parasitic system sucking energy and resources off of people and bringing them in the wrong direction. Economically, in terms of people's addictions to the material world where they don't have any sort of spiritual life anymore. Destruction of the family as both parents go out to work and are out in the world and all these things, all of it, right? And so, he doesn't even realize what he said, and the people who wrote his dopey speech and the majority of Americans don't really understand this because people are disconnected historically and, we haven't experienced this. Americans haven't been invaded, right? We haven't been invaded in our lifetime. We haven't lived in those kind of conditions. And our government has the ability just to print money anytime there's an issue and just go deeper and deeper into debt. And so instead of having to, live a life of austerity when you realize your personal economic situation is insolvent. You have, I don't know, $200,000 of credit card debt. You're making $60,000 a year. You have $200,000 of revolving credit card debt. You have a, 2 mortgage house payment, and you have cars that you have payments on, and then all your other expenses. And you don't have enough money unless you win the lottery. You're never going to get out of that situation. You have to go chapter 7 or 11. But instead, you're able just to take out more money. Then you double your credit card debt. You take out another $200,000. You take out another mortgage on your house. You take out bigger car loans. You get new cars with bigger loans, right? And so now your monthly payment is double what it was, and you're still making the same amount of money. You say, all right, I can't pay that, so I'll take out another $200,000 or another $400,000 on my credit card. More mortgages, right? And so that's what America has done over and over again. Oh, we can't pay this off, and we still want more new stuff. Okay, let's just go deeper into debt. And that's what's happened in the American economy. We know it. Like I've showed this over and over again. It's all debt, right? It's just a promise to pay. And eventually America is not going to be able to just print its way out of our insolvent debt-based situation. So what's going to happen then? A collapse of the system. And people are going to wake up and realize that their lifestyle is gone. And Americans are like, what? They've never experienced that. They think this system's always going to be here. I mean, even people in the truth community, even me to some extent, right? It's hard for me to actually, with all I know and all I've been covering, it's going to be hard for me to accept, wow, it really did. I thought it was always going to happen, but it did, right? It did happen. And so, it's going to be difficult for us to absorb because we don't know anything else. We've never gone through the Great Depression. I mean, at least, I don't think there's anybody alive now that was lived during the Great Depression. And, and they're going to be so old that they can barely remember it. I mean, it's been so long, 100 years ago. And so when you have a situation where you have a population that just expects better and more, like the newest app and the newest phone and the newest TV and the newest this, everything's getting better. Everything's always getting better in terms of our material lives. And then one day, there's no electricity, no internet, your phones don't work, and people are raiding the grocery store, and you realize you better start growing food, and, people are flipping out, and people don't have access to their medications. I mean, if there's that kind of calamity, we don't know what it's going to look like, but something on that level, like you're in some, disaster movie or something, and then you realize, wow, like I no longer can depend on the system. And then it becomes we the people again, right? Now it's we the people. Now you have to connect with your neighbors and your family, and you have to work together to survive, and you have a village-based system that's local, and you're growing your own food locally, and there's no longer any imports, and you don't go to Walmart to buy clothes from China or Pakistan or Indonesia or something, right? There's no longer any of that stuff. There's no global economy. You have to be we the people again. You have to connect with people, your neighbors that you don't even know their names, right? Once in a while you wave at them half-heartedly. And so, this is where we're going. And at some point it is going to be we the people, and it's going to be in God we trust, right? Because you're going to have to connect to God. This is what the heartfulness system is all about. You're going to have to connect to God on an internal level. Like this idea of a religion no longer exists, where you're going to have a personal relationship with God, because religions block that. Religions are to externalize your relationship with God and to be a middleman between you and God. And so that's going to have to disappear, because that's a lie and wrong, and that's all this disinformation associated with that. So many people wake up to everything but their religion, because their religion is something they can't confront within themselves, the way the religion has taken them in the wrong direction, and everybody, taking them away from God. There's been a barrier between them and God, and the religions get more and more materialistic. And so there needs to be an internal connection to God, and then it becomes in God we trust. You have to have faith in God that there's a way out of this situation, a way that you never, a situation you never thought you were going to find yourself in, a situation that you never thought was going to happen to you, couldn't imagine it. It's like a horror story outcome where the system you're 100% dependent on collapses, and whatever that means, because it could be, 30% collapsed or 50% collapsed or completely collapsed. I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know it's going to be, a situation where people wake up and they realize they have to come up with a solution to a problem they never thought they were going to have to face. A promise from their, we're promised every day by our government and our economy that don't worry, we're going to take care of you. We're strong. You don't have to develop any other skills. You don't have to even know your neighbors. You don't have to, just do your little job and participate, and we're going to take care of you. I mean, in fact, JoJo says that. Then he goes on and says this.
Our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government, you and I. Not some force in a distant capital, not some powerful force that we have no control over. It's us. It's we the people. In another era, when our democracy was tested, Franklin Roosevelt reminded us, in America, we do our part. We all do our part. That's all I'm asking.
Everybody's just got to do their part based in what the people that control you and own you, thinks your part is. But even with him saying that, that doesn't mean anything, because you can do your part, you can do other people's part, you can do, everybody's part. It's not going to make a difference, right? The system is insolvent, and it isn't here for you. It isn't, going to last forever. And they've made this promise, this false promise to our ancestors: leave your farm, leave your skills behind, leave your community, come to the city and just work 8 hours a day, whatever it was back then, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. You'll have your weekends to yourself. Just do one specialized skill. Just do your part. Just do your little part. And collectively, this system will always be there for you. You'll have stores and you'll have, food. You'll have stuff shipped over from other countries. Just do your part. And the system will always, you'll never need those skills again. You'll never need to, pick up a shovel. You'll never need to, plant a seed. You'll never need to milk a cow. You'll never need to, gather eggs or whatever it is, gather berries and, pick fruit. You never have to do any. We'll have other people do all that stuff for you. You just do this one thing that you're good at, a specialized skill, and we'll take care of you. You get a pension, you get a bunch of money, you go down to Florida, you play golf for the rest of your life, and for your retirement, and the kids come see you a couple times a year, and we'll take care of the rest, right? And that promise was, a promise they could never keep, because all things come to an end. Go look at all the ruins around the world, right? All these ancient cities that have collapsed and things. And we know, right, we've seen this. I mean, this happened time and time again. These ancient civilizations that everyone thought was so strong, Greece and Rome and all these various empires, the Chinese Empire, the ancient Indian empires of the Vedic age, and the European Empire, and which still is going on now with the Queen, but all these places with colonialism and neo-colonialism, and everything comes to an end. And when it does, you have to figure out a new system in a new way, and you have people who are so remedial in their abilities, are so, underdeveloped in their abilities, their social abilities, their physical survival skills, their healthcare, their internal health system, their physical bodies, and their internal will force is just completely weakened, disconnected from God, disconnected from their family, and just, really unpleasant, right? Really unlikable people for the most part. Entitled, complaining, whining, weak, right? All these things. Having to invent a new system, having to come up with something great when all they've had to do in the past is keep their little 8-hour job. And some people don't even do that, right? Some people don't even, have some work to do, something to contribute to society. And so all these people who are on multiple medications, right? Physical medications, they have chronic health issues. I mean, young people, chronic health issues, medications. Many of them are on psychological medications, in one form or another, whatever it is. And, that's or they're self-medicating, and all that stuff goes away. They no longer can get access to caffeine or alcohol or pot or, any number of drugs, or their, ADHD medication or their Prozac or whatever it is, right? They're in a state of shock because the systems collapse and they don't have the things that they use to cope with those, situations. And then they have to be we the people again, right? And so, we the people, JoJo, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.